Hello, my name is Fiona Thurman, and today I'm going to do my presentation over evolution. So, evolution is the change over time of a population in a certain situation or a certain environment. So, there's tons of examples of evolution in our world today. A good example that I saw is hummingbirds and the relationship between hummingbirds and flowers, because hummingbirds today, they have super long beaks, which gives them access to the flowers, because a lot of flowers are very deep, and like to get the to pollinate them and get what the birds need, they have to be able to reach it. Now, back a long time ago in Ecuador, they had these types of flowers, and they had different types of hummingbirds. And it came about that there were ones with really long beaks. And so the ones with the long beaks were able to get the nutrients and everything, and the ones who weren't were not able to. And then over time, as one of the birds who had the long beak, they reproduced, and then it became, now hummingbirds have long beaks and are able to survive. And with evolution, there's two different types. There's macro and micro. So macro evolution. The term macro means big. So that means a long period of time. It could be thousands to hundreds of thousands of years, and it's a bigger scale, and usually the organisms in this category have a longer lifespan. And a good example of this would be humans. Humans can go. We start off as apes, as many people believe, is that there's apes and then there's humans, and the line that it's hundreds of thousands of years to get from them to here, to what we are today. It went from them living in the jungle to, the apes living in the jungle and having opposable thumbs, to them moving their environment to the savannah and being able to stand up, and these traits are very similar with what we have. And that's very controversial with anyone. And then on the other hand, micro is very small scale. It's a very short period of time. It can be very tiny things. Like, for instance, your eye color can change between generations. It's not something that, it takes you 5 generations to get the color to be green or something. It's genetically passed. And that's the same with, hair color or, a genetic disorder. They're smaller. They don't take hundreds of thousands of years to develop. And then natural selection. So that natural selection was started by Charles Darwin. And it's basically that organisms who can survive and have the traits that are, make it easy to survive, and that they can produce offspring, they're the ones that keep going and that can survive. And then natural selection, it's not like, oh, I pick you and you're not going to live. It's depending on, in their natural habitat, are they able to survive and get food. And there's the example that I found was the peppered moth, because they started off as being, looking like they were gray. So they blended in with the trees. And then when the Industrial Revolution happened, and there was charcoal and debris and dust, then they turned colors, and the ones who stayed gray were found by the prey because they stuck out really bad. And then the ones that were black didn't. And so then it kind of just, that's who lived, and then they kept going. They became black, and so then it was easier to blend in. So adaptations are essential for evolution. If you don't have these adaptations, an adaptation is a response to an environment. And if you don't have these adaptations, you can't evolve into something. You die off. So an adaptation is part of evolution. These certain adaptations, they move through generations, and they're very important. The there's so many examples of adaptations, like an animal growing a fur coat to live in the cold, or being camo, or, like a polar bear has a white coat so they can blend in with the snow. There's so many different things that you can do. And that's it. That's evolution, friends.